Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us at day 5 of From Classroom to Boardroom, a virtual event series addressing issues of equity in the workplace and inclusive economic recovery in Charlottesville, Virginia, and beyond. Today, we're excited to get tactical, providing job seekers with resources they need to advance their careers and employers with best practices for how to encourage that. We'd like to thank Piedmont Virginia Community College for their collaboration in bringing this program to life. And we'd like to welcome you to this afternoon's session, Careers in Health and Human Services. And with that, I'll introduce our moderator, Andre Luck. He is the Director of Career Services at Piedmont Virginia Community College. And Andre, I will turn things over to you.
Thank you, Ben, and thank you to the TomTom Foundation for hosting this event. We so appreciate the TomTom Foundation's many contributions to help strengthen our community. I'm very excited because we have an illustrious group of panelists today, and I am going to ask them to introduce themselves and give a brief overview of their organizations. Pam, I'll start with you.
Okay, thank you, Andre. My name is Pam Thomas. I'm one of the recruiters for the University of Virginia Health System, which is now called UVA Health. In addition, this is a level 1 trauma center, and we are located in the center of Charlottesville. We are seeking candidates from entry level up to nurses, doctors, and I'm very honored to be able to represent UVA here today. And thank you, Andre.
Emily.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Emily Hunsaker. I'm the Director of Human Resources at the Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Virginia. The Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Virginia has 7 different locations, 5 of them in the Charlottesville and Albemarle area, and then 1 each in Orange and Madison. We serve over 2,000 kids a year from the ages from 6 to 18 years old. And traditionally, we have an after-school program and summer camp. During our after-school program and summer camp, we provide programming with a focus on academic success, healthy lifestyles, and good character and citizenship for the kids. In response to COVID, we've been running academic support centers where the kids have a safe place to come and log into virtual school. They're provided with access to Wi-Fi, a supportive adult to help assist them in their success and provide supervision. And they participate in enriching and fun programs and activities. And all of this helps our community families be able to return to work. We only charge $25 a year for members to access our services, so families have a truly affordable option that provides a safe and enriching environment for their kids. Our mission at the Boys and Girls Club is to enable all young people, especially those who need us most, to realize their full potential as productive and responsible and caring citizens. We employ approximately 130 employees during the year and up to 150 during the summer. Most of those positions are working with children in the after-school setting in the summer camps, or right now the virtual support centers, and require no previous experience. We do have administrative support roles that do require a degree or equivalent work experience, and we prefer individuals with a nonprofit background just because of the complexities of the back house of finance, fundraising, and operations in nonprofits. But as an employer, we truly prioritize our people, and we've really been able to prove that this year. We love being a part of the communities that we serve, and we really believe that our staff enjoy working with us. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Peter.
Thank you, Andre, and thank you everybody for being here today. The center, also known as the Center at Belvedere and formerly known as the Senior Center, is a community center open to all with a focus on people age 50 and better. You just heard about the Boys and Girls Club, and I think many people know what that's about. And we're kind of a Boys and Girls Club or a teen club for the over 50 set. The social impact of that is to help older adults continue to be active, productive members of society, and indeed to stay out of trouble. It's a different kind of trouble than youth may get into. We don't have as many problems with senior gangs or unsafe sex in our audience that we know of. But the fact is that if seniors don't come out and enjoy life, they do get in trouble. Social isolation kills. Studies now show that social isolation for older adults is similar to smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a day. It's a dangerous thing. It's not just a sad thing. So the positive impact the center has is helping seniors created opportunities to be able to come out and take advantage of what research shows are the key ingredients for aging well. Staying socially engaged, staying intellectually stimulated, staying physically active, staying civically engaged. And we do that in a supportive environment that is fun. One of our friends from the UVA health system once said is like, you're doing what we need to be doing, but it's not, you don't have to take your medicine. It's just come out and have fun. And it's that key. The center is a 501c3 nonprofit organization founded in 1960. We are the longest continually operating senior community center in Virginia and one of the oldest in the entire country. We have continued to move and grow as our community has moved and grown and need different things of us. And we opened just about a year ago here at the center of Belvedere, just off East Ryle Road in the northern edge of town. We serve about 8,000 unique users a year and about 100,000 visits a year. And that was in our much smaller center. We expect to have much more in our 2.5 times larger center here in Belvedere. Our budget is about $2 million a year operating. We have 18 paid staff today, including part-time. We're hiring 3 more people as we speak and expect to hire more once the post-COVID world allows the center to be more active. We will be staffing up as well. So we have many positions from entry level to more highly advanced, and our positions always have room for growth. We also like to think we're a fun place to work. We certainly have a lot of people who've been here a long time. And we have people here from high school and GED to people with masters. And like many employers today, we are very much focused on trying to build a more inclusive and diverse environment, and particularly in our workforce as well. Thank you again, Andre, and thanks everybody for being here.
Thank you, Peter, as well. And Pam, I also want to thank you for pitching in at the very last minute at the 11th hour for Laura and Dusky, who are going to be here. But when she woke up this morning, she wasn't feeling well. So we do wish her a speedy recovery, but we are so glad that you are with us today.
Thank you, Andre. I'm really honored to be a participant today and presenter. Thank you.
So you all represent such diverse organizations, but you seem to cover, for the most part, from cradle to grave, if you don't mind my saying that, and everything in between. Well, we know that the pandemic has changed the landscape of the workforce. We know that some people have been on the front lines, some people were left behind. There were people who, as Peter mentioned, had all sorts of emotional and physical issues because of social isolation. We know that some people are working from home and some people are working virtually, even though they may be working at their regular workplace, which is not at home. In many respects, Health and Human Services seems to have weathered the storm. I'd like to know if you can tell us what kinds of careers are within your industry. And why don't we start with Peter?
Thank you, Andre. Yeah, just within the center itself, and certainly within our field, there's a wide array of job opportunities. We have at the center, we have entry-level people. We have folks who have come fresh out of high school and college, who have been very successful at the center in a wide variety of positions in the 20 plus years I've been here. We also do have the so-called C-suite. The center is kind of a mid-scale size nonprofit, at least on a local standard. We're probably a little bit larger than a lot of organizations that only have a few people. But we have a 5-person leadership team of chief executive, chief finance, chief program, chief marketing. Those opportunities are here, and we have often promoted people from within into those positions. And when we've had people in that management level position, they have often moved on to executive director roles in area nonprofits or similar top level roles. So just within the center, we have a really kind of soup to nuts job opportunities.
Okay, well, that's really good to know, because a lot of times when I think of I know quite a bit about the center, as you know, but prior to that time, when I would think about the center of Belvedere, when it was the senior center, I would think, okay, well, they have volunteers, and I guess most of the volunteers are seniors, and that's what they do. They provide activities for seniors, but it is so much more than that. And you do so much for our community. And you are, I believe, a nationally recognized, maybe the only nationally recognized center for seniors, right?
We're the only nationally accredited senior center in Virginia, and we did win the 2009 Pinnacle Award as the best senior community center in North America. So we, like a lot of Charlottesville, like UVA and so many things, we are not so humble little community. We have world-class organizations here.
Well, I guess we're the shot around the nation because being nationally accredited is much better than being nationally recognized, and you're both. Now, Emily, tell us about some of the careers that are at the Boys and Girls Club.
Sure. So we are a youth development organization that focuses on the emotional, social, and physical development of youth. So that's what a majority of our positions are doing. They're direct service positions, working with the kids in the programs that we run. So again, typically after school, summer camp, but right now the academic support centers. Our staff will create and implement programs with the kids that are developmentally aligned for the kids' age and just where they're at as a group. The programs focus on everything from helping with homework to educational games to playing sports and cooking classes for healthy lifestyles. And then we have community service projects that are youth designed and youth led. And then we also teach some great skills like teamwork and collaboration and other positive character traits through games and activities. So that's what a majority of our positions are going to be doing. But we also have our support roles in the administrative office. And we at the admin team know that we are here to support those who are in the direct service roles to help fulfill the mission of the organization. But on the administrative side, we do have roles in finance, fundraising, grant management, human resources, and operations management.
So basically you're trying to help young people to become better citizens by teaching them life skills through education and activities.
Absolutely. We like to work in tandem with all of the school districts to make sure that the kids have the support that they need in their out of school time and to make sure that they have a safe place to be and that they're learning some really great skills that are going to help carry them through life. That
is excellent. Now, Pam, you are one of the largest employers in our area. And so I know that there are many, many different types of careers at UVA Health. Can you tell us about some of them?
Thank you, Andre. Yes. Now, remember that there's different categories within the medical center. So when we're talking about vast entry level, I'm talking, don't say I'm just, a secretary or I'm just a CNA. Everybody is valued. Everybody is valuable. Most people, I'm just going to give a little background. Most people who come into the medical center, people who come in as patients, they think everybody's either a nurse or a doctor. Okay. No, we have nurse assistants, we have dietary, we have housekeeping. So we have a call center that takes all of incoming referral from physicians. We have sterile technicians who they sterilize every instrument that is used on a patient from either the operating room or in a clinic. I have monitor technicians and they monitor the hearts of all patients. We have an off-site clinic that actually monitors and notifies the unit if someone is having a heart attack or having some issues with their heart. We have transporters that transport the patients throughout the medical center by bed, stretcher, wheelchair. We have, again, the certified nurse assistants who assist the nursing staff on the inpatient units and in the clinics. We have greeters. They're the frontline greeters. And I can't express enough that all of these individuals have worked through the tremendous year that we had with COVID. Those greeters were frontline, making sure everyone who came into the medical center had their temperature taken, had a mask on, sanitize their hands. There was no time off for any of the people in the healthcare. The frontline nurses, they've worked tremendous hard hours for our patients. So I don't ever want anyone to say, well, here's my resume. I've not really done anything but a sales associate. If you look at the vast number of positions, I would say right now the medical center has roughly 700 openings. But remember that the staff population is 8,000. Entry level could be, you might not want to do direct patient care. You could be an access associate, and that's registering patients in the clinic. You might come to me and say, well, I don't have a large computer-based skill, and PVCC can give you a course in that. What we're looking for is dedicated, compassionate customer service. So when you look at entry level, it's a conglomerate of number of positions. And then they go up to the mid-range. Mid-range could be a patient care tech who is a little more advanced than a certified nurse aide. In addition, you can go into labs, radiology, nursing. There is just such a big gamut. And a lot of times individuals come to me because they say, Pam, I don't know how to navigate where to go. So, I think being a resource, and I guess, Emily and Peter can all attest to the fact that we're here to help our community members if they can't navigate to find a position. So, just keep in mind that there's so many opportunities at the medical center that you may not have even thought of. But one final aspect, which may be different than Peter and Emily, we're a 24/7 organization. So there's evenings, there's nights, there's weekends on some of these roles. And so the compassion and the wanting to take care of a patient would not always be an 8 to 5 job. So I need flexibility. We're looking for individuals that could be flexible. Now, I do have some employees who go to school during the day at Piedmont. So they want evenings and they want nights. But there's a gamut of positions out there to pick from. I would also encourage a candidate, even though you read the job title, go in and read the job description. Because, a lot of people just click on to say, oh, I want that. Your recruiters are to be a resource to you. We're to help you and guide you from your resume and your experiences, maybe in an area you had not thought of, or to help navigate you to an area that you feel you're interested in. Mm-hmm.
Pam, you mentioned that you don't want people to say, I'm just and I agree with that, because when you do that, you minimize yourself up to you as thinking that you're not worth it, that you're less than. And instead, whatever your position is, whatever your education level is, it's say, I am a this, or I have that, but not, well, I only have that. So that's really, really good advice. And I think that many of the people who would say that about themselves have shown through COVID-19 that they are some of the most important people in the company. We couldn't live without them. We couldn't do our jobs without them. They keep us safe. They keep us alive. And something else that I gleaned from what you said is that just because you work in a healthcare setting doesn't mean you're going to be doing patient care. There are so many auxiliary services that you need to have in order for that operation to function properly.
Yes.
I want to talk about people who are stuck in their careers. They just, I'm kind of tired. I want to change. I don't really know what to do. I don't know how to manage my career. I don't know how to go from here to point B, wherever that might be. What type of advice do you have for job seekers that are trying to advance their career? And anyone or all of you can answer that question.
I'd be happy to start, and I can just, I think I would reinforce what our guests probably have already heard and read is, get involved and do network interviewing. I can take myself as an example. I was in the hospitality business. I fell into it, was good at it, stuck at it in my early 30s. I'm like, I don't want to be in this. This is not my life's goal. I wanted to do something to make my avocation for community work into more of a vocation. And I met with people in nonprofit leadership roles and said, what's it like? And I got a real taste of it, not the least of which is it's great, but remember, nonprofit work is still work. You're dealing with people. You've got a dual bottom line of meeting financial needs and a mission. It's hard work, and it can be very rewarding. And people told me that my business management experience could parlay to a nonprofit manager leader experience, and that I need to learn more about philanthropy and fundraising. And so I went back to 101 and had a very entry-level job in public broadcasting and worked my way back up to a leadership position. So I can't encourage that enough. I get calls all the time from people who say, hey, I know somebody from my faith community, or my neighbor just moved in, their spouse needs work. Would you meet with them and learn more about it? And I'm happy to do that because that's how I advance my own career. So I encourage people to do that. Certainly just getting involved as volunteers too. All of us need volunteers. Serve on an event committee, come in and greet people, go to the SPCA and walk the dogs, and do it in organizations that you think you might be interested in if you're interested in getting into nonprofit work. So I could go on, but I want to give space for my others, but those would be two tidbits from my experience.
And Peter, it is important that you realize that sometimes in order to advance, you have to leave the organization. And sometimes you do have to take a couple of steps back. You might have to take a lateral move, or you might have to move out and move down in order to move up. Especially if you don't have the skills or the experience, you might have to move down, meaning take a more less senior position or more entry-level position. But if you stay where you are, the trajectory may not be very steep at all because there's no opportunity that's available for you. Pam,
Yes.
Let's see if you can give us some advice as well on what someone who feels like they're stagnant in their career be able to do.
And I agree with you, Andre. Sometimes when you feel in need of a change, and you feel like, you're burned out, or, you're just tired of doing the same job, you may have to take a background demotion. You may have to go down. If you find out that I found this new career that I want to do, and, I may have to drop down on salary and in the level that I was, sometimes, it's a new perspective for somebody to maybe say, I recognize the fact that I need a change. The thing about the medical center that I will tell you, we do many hundreds of demotions, promotions, and laterals. And that's when employees come to me and say, Pam, I want to do something different. I'm stuck in this same rut. So that's where, I'm sure we're all career counselors at some time in our lives. How do you work that person? How do you lean them into a new career or a new path? So, they have to be able to take the good and the bad. So you may have to drop down. For some of my candidates, I think, and from what I have seen, it's the fear of the unknown. I think they feel like they don't really want to stay in this position, but it's the fear of not knowing what they're going into. And I think us as recruiters, as myself, I have to nudge or, assist that candidate in possible interview for a different area. But as far as changing careers, that's on a personal level if an employee or a candidate wants to change their role. And I'm saying, just like Peter, you have to volunteer, you have to join organizations, you have to network. Nothing anymore is going to be like laid out on your plate. It's sort of like you have to go find it. And I tell we have a lot of senior volunteers who worked at the medical center, retired, came back. They came back as a volunteer, and then all of a sudden somebody saw them, how they interacted with patients and visitors, and was like, would you like to be a part-time greeter? Okay, so you were a manager of a call center. Now you came in as a volunteer. Now you work part-time as a greeter, and you're getting part-time benefits, or, if they want to come in as wage with just so many 1,500 hours a year. So I agree with Peter. It's a lot to do with networking. But I think also a lot of times you can pull things out of a resume that the candidate didn't notice. So I try to strategically say, oh, you did this, you were a manager, but, then you went to a director, where do you see yourself as far as customer service, and then I try to lay out some of the different positions that we may have in the medical center that a candidate may be interested in. Mhm.
That's very true what you said. A lot of times the subject understand him or herself. You can pull something out of a person. Oh, you did that, and you can, but they don't even know that there are dots that exist, because maybe they don't. Maybe it's a self-worth issue, or they just thought that they weren't doing much of anything and just never saw the potential that was inside of them.
Can I give an example real quick? I'm sorry, Andre.
Absolutely,
Okay,
please.
so I get a resume. This is for an entry-level candidate I want to back up into. Okay, so I get a resume and an application from a sales associate in a local department store, okay, who says, I'm just a sales associate. I turn around and say, did you accept cash? Did you do credit cards? Did you answer customer service? Did you answer calls? Did you balance that cash you register at the end of the night? This is the kind of stuff that I have candidates write down so they can go back into that resume and redefine what they know. So in layman's terms, we say, handle payments. Well,
yeah.
Sorry, got lost.
Oh, well, we lost Pam. Hopefully she'll be back with us pretty soon. Emily, what advice?
I'm sorry.
Pam's back. But Pam, why don't you finish up?
Okay, no, just when, and I will tell the participants, when you're doing a resume, tweak it to define it, a model that would make you look more successful. So I would say cashier, cashiering, so, telephones, direct calls. So tweak some of those specific words. An access associate, that would be a frontline person. That would be something that you would want to do.
Perfect. Emily.
Yeah, so I absolutely agree with everything that Peter and Pam have said. Find an organization that really works well with what you want, that has a great culture that you feel like would be a good fit for you, and find that entry-level position or volunteer. We've definitely grown our employees through the process from volunteer all the way up to a manager before. So it absolutely does happen. It does work. I think the one point that I would say that maybe hasn't been hit on yet is that the employee, once you're with an organization, you should advocate for yourself. Make sure your supervisor knows that you want to be promoted. Make sure that you talk to your HR professional in your organization as well. Get the information out there that you're interested in growth. Have some conversations to find out what those hard skills are that you really need in order to move into a position that you would like to move into, and find out what the soft skills are and start utilizing those soft skills and putting those on display. So I would really just make sure that there's advocation on your own behalf. I don't know how many times I've sat down with an employee at an exit interview and they said, yeah, but I never got promoted. And the general thought was they didn't want to be. So it's really great to make sure that if that's on your mind, if that is something that you want to do is advance your career, make sure that people around you know that, and that you're seeking out what the next steps would be and what you need to actively do to participate so that you're ready for career advancement.
Absolutely. And you, Peter, absolutely. And self-advocacy is very important. Network is very important. Knowing who you are and where you want to go, in other words, having a career direction is very, very important. And I've even seen situations or cases where someone had a full-time job, but they took on a part-time job that part-time job was in a completely different industry, a completely different type of work. And then there were opportunities that were made available to them in that part-time job. They ended up having a completely new career from the part-time job that became a full-time career. So there are a lot of many different ways that someone who is feeling stagnant, just not sure what to do, there are many different opportunities for them to advance. And I would say that if you are one of those people, then contact Virginia Career Works. They're one of the co-sponsors of this event. Contact them and see if you can get some professional assistance. If you are a PVCC student, a current PVCC student, PVCC Career Services is also available to help you. Now, Pam, you had mentioned, and I'm paraphrasing, you had mentioned pulling certain words out of a resume, or maybe one in the resume, but you allowed them to bubble to the surface so that people would be more aware of their skills. So that makes me think about applicant tracking systems. Any of you use applicant tracking systems? If you do, tell us what they are, tell us how they work. I used to have a career in human resources, and I know how overwhelming it can be to get applications, whether they're in the mail. Yes, back then it was in the mail, electronically, by email, or maybe it was through the internet, and it was just overwhelming. And so those of you who use applicant tracking systems, tell us more about them.
Sure, so I'll jump in. We do use an applicant tracking system. So essentially we post our jobs on our applicant tracking system, and that sends the job out to several different job boards. So you'll have it seen on Indeed, Glassdoor, LinkedIn, and many others. Once the job description is posted, I go in and I create qualifying questions for each individual job. And those are questions that the applicants have to answer, and they usually are linked to, or they always are linked to, the requirements of the job. So essentially, you'll see questions like, can a candidate work specific hours? So to Pam's point, we're not a 9 to 5 necessarily, we're working after school hours. So it might say, can you work from 2 to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday? It'll ask about specific experience or specific certifications or qualifications. So, you know, when answering those questions, be realistic, because if you don't see yourself working until 7 o'clock every night or on the weekends at UVA all the time, then don't say, yes, you can. Because the idea behind those questions is that it's gonna be something that you probably have to do pretty regularly. So once the applications come back, all the applications come back through the applicant tracking system, no matter where you applied from. If you applied on Indeed or Glassdoor, it all is coming back to the employer through the applicant tracking system. So candidates who don't finish filling out the information, those are probably not going to be seen by the employer, those applications. If the candidate doesn't meet the job requirements, their application is probably not going to be seen by the employer. The applicant tracking systems themselves are designed to get the job postings out broadly and widely, but then narrow the employer's job search pool to only the qualified and interested candidates. And then it provides a place to house the communication to the candidates all in one spot. So that's really how the applicant tracking system works for the employer as well as for the user.
Okay.
And
No, that's awesome. No, thank you, Emily. Pam, do you have experience using an applicant tracking system?
Yes, we have a ATS system called Workday. And Emily, we work the same. I will say that, okay, so for my positions, I've created something called, it's called an evergreen, but it's a pipeline. So here's an example. I might have 30 certified nurse assistants on different units. I'm not going to post 30 jobs. And this is what streamlines my work every day. So I post one certified nurse assistant for the inpatient units can touch and contact every day who has applied the night before. And that gets me quicker to the candidate, gets me to screen the candidate and schedule the interviews versus, and I know you all are probably in Emily, is if I posted 30, the same person would apply for all 30. So what I do is streamline it. I have several pipelines, and to be honest with you, I get more contact. I get to learn the candidate. I get to know what they're looking for versus applying for everything and not being able to do that customer service and get that candidate to the appropriate area. I just want to say one thing about attaching the resume. Andre, when you said, individuals, who want a career change, I had a specific example a couple of weeks ago from the VEC event. The candidate says, I keep applying for these jobs, and so she had not attached a resume. When I got done speaking to her, she has been taking the clerical classes at PVCC. I said, basically, you're not selling yourself. You're only putting on that application what you have done. You're not putting any of the courses you had at Piedmont. I said, that is what is getting you turned down. So again, you have to be an advocate. You should do a cover letter. I told everyone you should do a resume. Don't do one cover letter and expect it to be for every position. You have to tweak it for the position that you are applying for.
It has to be targeted.
Yes, please, because I get that so much that, and a manager sees that and says, well, that's not the position that I'm recruiting for. So they'll reject them. Am I right, Emily? I mean, it's just, you've got to sell yourself so we can partner with you and get you that job.
That's absolutely true. And I have found that people have this ready, fire, aim approach, as opposed to ready, aim, fire. Oh, okay, I'm going to use the shotgun approach and just apply for everything with cover letter or with the wrong cover letter, and it doesn't work. Or you apply to so many different places. Sometimes I've actually seen where someone applied for a job, but the address was to another company, or the name of the other company, but it was to our address. And it's like, well, I don't think that person is going to be, that person won't make the first cut because they didn't do their due diligence.
Not detail oriented. They're not
Exactly.
following directions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot that you can learn about an individual by looking at their application or their resume. And then maybe there's an interview, but the application and the resumes are screening interviews. They're tools to screen people.
Yep.
Now, I know that sometimes people don't know what they don't know. I mean, for example, let's say someone did something when they were younger or more recent that they should not have done, and it got them in trouble. And maybe back then they didn't think anything about it, but now there's more like a day of reckoning. Now they're applying for certain jobs. I know what my calling is. This meets my skill set perfectly. This is the career that I want. The question is, what can disqualify people from being hired?
I'll take that one. I'll start with that one. To me, what I tell a candidate is come forward, be truthful. Okay. Some people have made mistakes or misjudgments in their life. So what can get you disqualified is here's the problem. You've applied, you've said you've had no misdemeanors or felonies. We do a background check and you have misdemeanors. That offer is going to be rescinded. Will not be able to reapply for a year. So normally what I tell a candidate, I say, is your application true and just? Recently, I've had a couple, very unfortunate situations where the candidate said they had a high school diploma or GED and they did not. That disqualifies you. The minimum requirements at the medical center are 18 years of age, high school diploma or GED. Now, if you came to me and you put on that application, it was a felony, you would have to put in there. I always tell candidates you must put the year, the county, and the allegation. Some are case by case basis because remember, all of us in this chat, I have to make sure if you're taking care of a family member that you're safe, that I'm safe, my family member is safe, or my friend is patient care. Another thing is I think that they think that if they don't disclose it, that that employers won't find it. I don't know about every institution, but ours does background checks in drug screenings. So another disqualification is if you stated that you had never worked for us before on your application. Then I go back in and I find out that you were a previous employee not eligible for rehire. So there's a lot of instances that are case by case. That's the main disqualifiers is rehire status, not being upfront about any misdemeanors or felonies. And that's the norm sometimes for us. Yes.
Pam, do you recommend that somebody who might be in that type of situation, maybe they were a former employee, they didn't leave on good terms, do you recommend that they meet with you or another recruiter? Because there may have been extenuating circumstances that just they weren't able to share at the time when they were having problems as an employee.
Yes.
And the reason I'm asking is because, as you know, I for many, many years, and as you know, I met you when I used to work in human resources at UB. And so there were times when people could not be rehired. That was their status, do not rehire. And, we could see, some of the reasons why. And people would meet with us. Now, we couldn't really disclose that information, but they would meet with us and we would help them navigate, in many cases successfully. And sometimes we were able to add more recent successes that were able to mitigate some of the issues that they had when they were an employee. And in many cases, they were rehired.
Yeah, and that is the case, Andre. Basically, there's two avenues here. The first avenue is you failed your drug screening or you failed the background check. You have to wait a year to reapply. Okay. Now, as far as a past employee, and this is what I do when a lot of employees at the medical center think that I'm not rehireable for 1 year. That's not the case. You're not rehireable forever. I don't want to say it like that, but your recourse is I send you an email and I explain to you that you're not eligible for rehire. I have you reach out to employee relations. What employee relations does is they take that case, they will review the case. Some are overturned, some are overturned, but there is a process. And I agree with you. What they do is they have sort of a process as to how long have you been gone? Have you had steady employment and a positive reference? And that's a possibility to be overturned. And then they let the recruiter know that past employee is now eligible for rehire. So never say not never again, but remember that you will have to work with employee relations.
And sometimes no is not the final answer.
No.
In some cases it is, but in many cases it is not the final answer.
It's case by case.
Right, exactly. Emily, is there anything you want to add to that?
I would say for myself, probably for Peter, but I don't want to speak for him. Any barrier crimes for us working with youth would bar you from employment.
And I would say that's probably true for all of you.
Mhm.
You know, some of you are working with youth and some are working with seniors and
Patients.
you're working with patients.
Mhm.
And so they're all vulnerable populations. And can you give us an example of a barrier crime, Emily?
Sure. So sexual assault, a felony sexual assault would be one.
Mhm.
You can go on Virginia's website as well and look up
Right.
barrier crimes for Virginia, and they'll have, it's a very extensive list, but they're
Yeah.
all higher level felony crimes.
So the theme of the classroom to the boardroom is about workplace equity and inclusion, diversity, equity, and inclusion. What suggestions do you have to help applicants avoid age or other forms of discrimination? I know that's very, very broad, but any thoughts that you might have?
Since you specifically mentioned age, I can obviously have my radar up with that. You know, ageism lives in America. It's a very real ism, and it's every bit as dangerous and killer as every other ism that our culture needs to fight. And it's very hard to prove ageism. Legal cases often don't go anywhere. It's very, very hard to prove, but do know it's out there, and it's very much out there in employment in our community. So, you know, some of the tidbits that people often share is, you know, don't put your high school graduation year and college graduation on there, because if it makes it look like you're 50 or 60, or in some cases 40, where some employers will think that you're too old, you know, just try not to put it in there. Try to, you know, focus resumes on skills and not tenure. Yeah, and less so from the resume too, is just, I'm always amazed when applicants will make fun of, say, you know, I'm not that in tune with technology. Like, don't reinforce a potential stereotype that an employer probably has, because most people do have that negative stereotype, which is unfortunate, because I turn to an 85-year-old volunteer every time I need help with my iPhone. He's a hell of a lot smarter than me with it. So, you know, don't reinforce the dangerous part. Show, you know, fight those things with your proactive, saying, you know, I created my own website. I did this, I did that. You don't have to beat them over the head, but, you know, be positive about what you do have. Acknowledge where you're short, you know, to Pam's and other points there. Don't lie. You know, that's not going to do anybody good. But then talk about, if I don't know how to use databases that well, explain how I'm a great lifelong learner. That this is how I learn things. I'm a self-promoter. I'll do the work. I'll take the classes. I learn from, you know, whatever it is. Be positive to avoid ageism in the workplace, because otherwise you will find it and it will bite you.
And it goes back to what Pam said about advocating for yourself.
Mhm.
I want to make sure that I remind our audience, please, if you have any questions, put them in the chat. What other types, Emily, I think you're getting ready to say something?
Yeah, I would just say that my tip would be, find a company that's already diverse. Companies that already have a diverse workforce are going to be less likely to discriminate in the hiring process. Companies that like truly embrace differences and have a diverse work group, they're not going to have as much of a hard time attracting and retaining talent. So I would steer away from groups of like largely homogenous employee profiles, and they might not be ready to accept candidates that are different. So I would really like research the companies, find the company that really, again, works with what you have to offer. And then in the interview, to Peter's point, don't sell yourself short. Be very aware of the job requirements and be ready to give your own examples of how you can fulfill the work requirements or how you have in the past. Don't wait for the interviewer to ask you those questions necessarily or pull it out of you. Be willing to find your own examples to provide and really promote yourself in that. The more that you can connect with the interviewer through your communication and your interpersonal skills too, the more you'll stand out from the other candidates. So that would be my recommendation.
Very, very, very good. tips that you've given, Emily. Pam, was there anything you wanted to say about that?
Yeah, I agree with both of them, with Peter and Emily. There is a few things like, Peter said, don't put your high school graduation date, or don't put your college grade date that you graduate from college. You might want to limit your work history. We don't want to see 40 years, maybe put 10 or 15. Focus on and hone in on your customer service skills. Don't put your relevant skills, don't put a, Lotus 1, 2, 3 from 10 years ago on there. Just, any relevant, experience in today's work, field. And if you don't have the relevant skills, that were from 10 years ago, don't put it. Stay more professional, not so much personal on your resume. Because I'm very wordy. So, but I agree with both of them. I think that's, it's a shame that an employer would discriminate against age, because age brings experience. So, sometimes people's not their personal lives, but even their work history, they've learned a lot, and they're very valuable. Mm-hmm.
Now, several years ago, I was teaching students who were from the inner city, and we were talking about resumes, and one of those students said to me, well, I was told not to put my address on my resume. And I said, well, why not? I was told that if I put my address on my resume, I might be discriminated against because of where I live. And I thought, wow, I never thought about that. It can be a red flag, I think, if you don't work in the technology field. It might be a red flag not to have your address on your resume. This is at least my opinion. But I think if you could have access to a PO box or someone else's address and have your mail sent there, at least on a temporary basis, or at least for that, when you're applying for specific jobs, that might be a way to get around discrimination by location, if you will.
A good HR or recruiter that is interested in increasing diversity in the workplace will, if they have identified that it's a problem within their organization, will de-identify some of those resumes before handing them out. They may take off full names and any demographic information that could be gleaned from an application, and just present the hiring manager with just the basics, the work history, and have the hiring manager kind of work off of that alone to help to promote diversity within their own workplace. So hopefully we have enough of those great HR professionals and recruiters out there that are doing things like that to increase the diversity within their organizations as well.
Mm-hmm.
Emily, Peter, Pam, I want to thank you for participating in our panel discussion. I think there's a lot of wisdom right here, and I'm sure that the people who were able to hear you or who will hear the recording will benefit greatly from your expertise.